Welcome to the first iteration of the GEMS Model United Nations podcast. This is me, Muskan Joshi, the Director General of Operations. I'll be the host for this episode of podcast. Here, we have the three Secretary Generals of three different iterations of the GEMS Model UN Conference. Even though these three are really prominent in the Nepal MUN Circuit, we will be having a short round of introductions. Well, they will not be introducing themselves, but the one right next to them.
So I'll be introducing Abhas Sharma. He was the section for GEMS MUN United Nations 2022, the 7th iteration, and he's one of the most hardworking person that I've ever met. I was the legacy logistic right under his team, and then it was a really pleasure working with Abhas as well because I got to learn so much about him and so much about his nature. He's such a passionate person for MUN and the right person for the Model United Nation for 2022.
I'll be starting now. Dirasha Parajuri, Dirasha Didi is the Secretary General of the 8th iteration of GEMS Model UN. She's a very renowned speaker in every Model United Nation in Nepal, I believe in international MUN as well. She's very famous and a very good speaker in MUN Circuit in Nepal, and she is building her MUN experience as much as she can. She has already 30 plus MUN experience, and I believe that we can have that chance in future to work together in MUN as a dais or an organizing committee.
Alright, introducing Joyjit. I believe that when I first saw Joyjit, I saw a reflection of both me and Dilasha in him. There's the anxiousness from Dilasha, the willingness to learn and work in a team that I at one point had. That was in my generation. Talking about Joyjit further, I've worked with him in a numerous number of MUNs and he's not failed to disappoint me or the organizing committee in any of those MUNs. And I'm pretty sure he'll do a great job in the 2024 iteration of GEMS MUN. Joyjit has a number of MUNs to his name, but regardless, Joyjit is someone who's really capable for this job, and I know for a fact that this MUN will be one of the grandest MUNs in the 2024 series of MUNs. So that'll be all from my side.
Alright, after such wonderful introductions, let's start with a very interesting question. How does it feel to be the Secretary General of the GEMS Model UN?
Starting from the
Sure. When my iteration happened, we started post-COVID, right? That being said, we were the first Model United Nations conference to have a huge number of delegates. So post-COVID, we had 350 delegates with 15 committees. That was just the MUN part. When I got interviewed, I had chills when they were announcing the Secretary General. The competitor that I had may have been a part of GEMS more than I did, but when it came to running the MUN, I was pretty sure there was no one better than me at that point in time. And that is what the administration at GEMS believed as well. There's a certain feeling that arises in your heart once you are the Secretary General. It's nothing like how you get selected for being the class monitor or the president. It's simply unique in its own way because you're leading a conference that is so high and mighty that the entirety of Nepal knows that GEMS MUN is happening and the Secretary General is one of the most experienced and the best for the job. It does not feel normal. It feels like you've accomplished something that you could have never done without the support of each and everyone that was behind you. It feels drastic from the changes that you were as a student. You're looked up differently by everyone. You have expectations from the teachers that are very unique. And you have to live up to the expectations that everyone possesses while also remembering the fact that you're still a student at GEMS. So it feels very unique to be the Secretary General. That'll be all for my side.
So I second whatever Abhas said, but it's overwhelming for sure because now you have another title at your head as well, and you have to keep up the expectations from school too. And like, you know, we have a name called Moon Ko Bacha in GEMS wherever we go to do something. That tag stays on for the rest of your high school life. And that not only like applies to the Secretary General, it also applies to the organizing committee members as well. And during my interview, like he said, you get a different pressure to answer those questions as well. But at the same time, you're being very honest with them and you show what you truly are and what your capabilities are. And they like give you that position on the basis of your capabilities. Just know that whoever comes in the section position does not come just because the school liked them or somebody liked them. They come to that position because the school knows that they'll be able to handle that position because of all the pressure that they're in.
I'll be starting now. The position of Secretary General is very stressful and renowned in Nepal MUN Circuit, as it is very hard to keep the legacy successful and keep running. As I believe that how stressful is the job of a Secretary General is very stressful, as we have to balance between academics and MUN. And renowned, as we can see, as I can see, that continually we have running 9th year of GEMS MUN successfully, and we're still trying to keep the legacy in Nepal MUN Circuit. And I believe that to have the position of Secretary General, it should consist of MUN experience as well as capabilities and qualities. And I believe the GEMS have chosen the best Secretary Generals. We can see as the iteration of 7th and 8th and 9th present right now.
Wow, that was very inspiring. We have now known how being Secretary General feels like. Now, let's hear it from them about the hurdles of GEMS MUN.
Let's go with the Dasha this time.
So in my iteration, we had 16 committees and we had more than 470 delegates. We did not expect 470 delegates. We were just expecting somewhere around 400 plus. But then all of a sudden there was a rush of delegates, and then that pressure suddenly came. It also comes to how you pick up the teams and how your teams work in coordination specifically, because you have operation and committees. You need a bridge for that, and it's very important. You know how you groom those teams as well, because communication is one of the most important things. We need to build communication in the team, and that's very important. Sometimes it lacks, sometimes there is no communication at all. So that was one of the hurdles for us as well. I think in every iteration there was communication barrier at some point, but you know, it's the section as well as the OC shop to fix it. So I think that was the biggest hurdle for mine.
Alright, talking about hurdles, right? Hurdles are something that's in the capacity of the Secretary General to solve, right? I'd say there were hurdles in my iteration, but with the organizing committee that I had selected, we knew what was coming for us. We knew what we needed to do at that point in time. We knew one particular thing. Even though there will be hurdles, we'll be separated, we'll be grouped by various things. We needed to know this one important thing. It's not us we're working for. It's the betterment of the MUN, it's the betterment of the school we're working for. I think that is what pushed us to work together, regardless of how many hurdles we had, regardless of how differentiated our opinions were at one point. Right? But at the end of the day, it is always one person's job to gather the team, make everyone fixated on one opinion, and go with it. Right? And I believe that is what we did at GEMS MUN 2022. And I think the main hurdle behind any MUN is when the Secretary General is not communicative enough with the organizing committee. You don't give them proper orders, you don't give them proper work. They just don't work at that point. If you provide them with actual work, substantive work, they actually know what to do. They know what they have to do at the MUN, they know what they have to do, what are their responsibilities. So I think the main hurdle behind any other GEMS MUN would be the communication gap that we have with the organizing committee, but that is something we can easily overcome. And I believe that this year, with Joyjeet's team and Joyjeet as a whole, we can really come up to this MUN with no hurdles as such. So back to you.
I totally agree with the previous Secretary Generals. As they have mentioned, Dilasha Didi mentioned about communication. Abhas Dai also mentioned about communication with having a better leadership quality in the Secretary General. The biggest hurdle for me would be communication as well as capabilities as well as qualities. Because in MUN organizing committee, we don't want any leaders to rise from it. We want someone who could work and who could make up the legacy, who could work successfully to create the legacy for GEMS Model United Nation. The biggest hurdle, as Dilasha Didi mentioned, communication is the biggest problem in every MUN circuit. Because if you don't have any communication skills with the organizing committee, with delegates, or with any member in Model United Nation, it is very impossible to create the MUN a successful event. So to tackle that, it's the responsibility of Secretary General as full as the organizing committee to make the MUN a successful event.
Indeed. How is GEMS MUN any different from other MUNs?
Sure. Alright, we talk about GEMS MUN being different from all other events of Nepal. I say we're not just different, but we're the superior MUN in terms of academics as well as the way we run the MUN conference as well. We don't have a certain set of rules that we abide. We have ethics that we abide to. The ethics that every section brings to the organizing committee on their own. Dilasha had a separate set of ethics. I had a separate set of ethics. Joyji definitely has a separate set of ethics. It's the ethics that divides us in terms of why every year GEMS MUN is different. But why are we different from other MUNs? We have a stronger emphasis on how we run the committees. We push committee sessions to an extent where the delegates feel like today there'll be no socials. It's all about the committee sessions. Because to be very honest, MUNs are an academic event more than a social event. You learn about diplomacy, foreign policy more than you learn about how you dance or how you sing. Because that's just how MUNs were intended to be from the very beginning. GEMS MUN has never put a stronger emphasis on how social should be run, but we've always pushed how GEMS MUN's committee should be run. With executive board members exceeding 100 MUNs, with executive board members being the most prominent, being the most promising executive board in the entirety of Nepal. We bring a different set of executive board as well as a different set of ethics in each and every one of them while they come into the committees. Our committees are run differently from any other MUNs. We have 15 committees, that too not general committees. Our committees are so unique. There are some committees this year that no one has ever heard of in an MUN. And we're goddamn sure about it that we are the best organizing committee that can run those committees. In any other MUNs, these specific committees could not have even been run, or the idea of running these committees could not have been pushed forward. But it's not an obstacle or a hurdle for GEMS MUN because we know how we should be doing it, we know how to do it, and that comes from the experience that we have. Back to that.
So I agree with whatever Abhas said. I'd also like to add that it's also one of the biggest institutional MUN that there is, that is run by the students. Teachers do help us, but at the end of the day, it's the student that push forward all the ideas. These ideas don't come from teachers, these ideas don't come from administration or the board of directors. These ideas straight up come from the OC and the section. They push forward the ideas, they make the MUN run rather than the school. But at the end of the day, like Abhas talked about ethics, everybody has different ethics, but at the end of the day, it's how we progress and how we run the MUN that really separates us from other MUNs.
The fact that both the Secretary General missed is GEMS MUN is one of the MUN in Nepal which is approved by United Nations. As you can see that none of the academic schools have provided an authorization of United Nations, but GEMS provided an authorization of United Nations to conduct and model UN. So it is a bigger deal because none other than schools rather than GEMS has provided it. Now another fact is that it is a very competitive system or a style in this MUN. Now you cannot go other MUN to experience this kind of debate that we provide in GEMS. We have different type of debating, we have different type of socializing, lobbying, and everything that we talk. And especially, it is not commercialized. In 2024, there are a lot of commercialized MUNs going around in our country, in our Nepal. But GEMS is not a commercialized MUN, and GEMS is an academically focused, helping individuals to learn how to debate, how to connect with others, helping to build a network with their students, with individuals around them. And that's it.
That's impressive. What was special about GEMS MUN every year, seeing its progress, and what is special right now in GEMS MUN?
I'd like to go with Joyji, Dilasha, and then me.
Okay, I'll start. The fact that this year we have a different set of organizing committee, different positions that we opened now, and this year we have 16 committees. And as Abhas mentioned earlier, the fact that none of the other MUNs have experienced this type of committee in this iteration, in the ninth iteration of GEMS Model UN. And the difference in this year is that we have better organizing committee, we have better system than previous years, and then we have better debating style, we have better executive board this year, I believe so.
So I'd like to start. So first of all, I think we'd start from committees. We had 16 committees introduced. When Abhas had 15 committees, I believe, we added one more. We also increased the delegates number. And like Jojit mentioned, it's also regarding the quality. Every single year, the quality increases. The quality increases every single time as well. And yeah, it's also about executive board members. We had better executive board members too. We actually had similar executive board members compared to Abhas MUN as well. So yeah, that's what there was.
I believe there's a huge difference between my MUN and their MUN specifically because firstly, our MUN at 2022 was the very first MUN certified by the United Nations in that particular year. So, with 2 years running, the United Nations did not provide their certification to any other MUNs but ours. Right. Following that, our MUN was the first MUN post-COVID. So, we had a greater pool of delegates just because the name of GEMS MUN was not enough, but COVID as a whole pushed the delegates to our end. We put a stronger emphasis on quality over quantity. We had a strict rule that we're not going to take any more than 350 delegates. And we addressed that particularly because we had exactly 350 delegates. Not one more, not one less. Right? Thirdly, our executive board members at that point in time were known as the OGs of the MUN circuit, or the ones who were veterans of the MUN circuit. Sadly, we could not have some particular executive board members at that point in time, but we still managed to put in an executive board members list with over 1,000 MUNs in total. So our MUN experience at that point was coming from executive board members that were superior to any executive board members at this point in time, particularly. Not trying to defame anyone, but the OGs were the ones who trained the organizing committee members as well as the delegates from the last 2 years. Right. Thirdly, we had a stronger emphasis again on both executive board members and the delegates. So we ensured that the delegates got what they needed in the event. So either it was grooming or the delegate kits. We had everything covered. And I believe that our MUN was different from these two because of one particularly important fact as well. The two heads, the head of security and the head of logistics, knew what they needed to do because they come from an MUN background itself. So not only does the Secretary General have a huge number of MUNs to his name, the head of logistics and the head of security, they were really competent as well as they knew what needed to be done before I asked them to do this. So whenever I needed something, they would get it done before I even asked them. But that was different about my year. So
I think it's basically being passed down, from your MUN to my MUN, like your GEMS MUN, like all the GEMS MUN are kind of connected in some ways if you think about it. So yeah, that's what it is.
Thank you so much, Jajit, for your presence. Now we will be interviewing just Abhas and Dinesh. So let's start our next segment with a few rapid fire questions. Are you guys ready?
sure.
So my first question is, what was your favorite MUN?
GEMS MUN 2020.
Wow, that's great. So this might be a bit hard. Who is your favorite dance?
Can we skip this?
You can probably answer that question. For me, it would probably be Divastai. Divastai was someone who got me out to MUNs. There's no one higher in regards to that position than Divastai for me. So I'd probably say Divastai was my favorite executive board member.
So next question is pretty interesting, especially for Dilasha Didi. Who was or is your favorite legacy logic?
See, I feel like all four of them are my favorite legacy logic because at the end of the day, they did like every work that I gave them, and they literally had they pushed themselves so much that we didn't even require them to do that work. But then at the end of the day, they followed us around. They helped us a lot. So I feel all four of them were the best legacy logic for me.
Alright, we did not specify which years. So Dilasha was my favorite legacy logic till date because again, you guys did not specify which year. So yes, Dilasha was my favorite legacy logic because she worked a lot during the 2022 iteration. I personally could not mentor her at that time. I was busy running around here and there ensuring the MUN was good on my own. So yeah, Dilasha was my favorite legacy logic.
Okay. So what is your favorite committee?
I think Dilasha and me have the exact same favorite committee. It's the United Nations Security Council. We're both people who believe that UNSC should be our type of committee because we are both very anxious when we debate. We try putting our points before anyone else's. We roast the other delegates so much so that we definitely win the best delegate in that particular committee. So
We also make them cry sometimes because of the pressure that there is. I feel like it's more like the feeling that you get in SC, you don't get it anywhere. Because it's very difficult to make allies in SC as well. Like human right, council, everyone's ally with everyone's. Because at the end of the day, your core conclusion is about human right, which is a basic right for everyone. But then in SC, especially when you have topics such as crisis, right? Like let's give an ongoing crisis like Israel and Palestine one. you don't have everyone on the same block. So that's pretty interesting because you gotta work hard to make allies, you gotta put forward your points, you gotta roast some people that there are, sometimes make them cry too. So I think, yeah, because of that, ST is my favorite company. By
A
far.
very interesting thing. During the mock session of the GEMS MUN 2022, Dilasha made a delegate cry because she could not see how to start the G as a right. So she literally made a delegate cry in the mock session of an MUN. So that is how much you know how much Dilasha loves you in SC.
So, which day of your MUN is favorite?
Please. It'll probably be the first day looking at the delegates, having the willingness to learn about the MUN. That exhaustion that you get after the opening ceremony when the committee starts, I think that is what pushes a Secretary General to do even better on the 3 days of the MUN. The first day is definitely the one day that all of the sections should look up to because that day is the one day you get the push that you really need to conduct the MUN.
Well, I definitely agree with what Abhas said. Like, you know, the feeling that you get on first day, you're not gonna get that feeling in any of the day at all. You have like the anxiousness of how to start the opening ceremony. You got to practice your speech at least 2-3 times. And then after that, you got to look at overall as well, like come early in the morning, visit every committee, and then, you know, feel exhausted at first. But the moment you see the delegates, the moment you see the executive board members, that exhaustion just gets lost somewhere. And what you feel is like, you know, like you feel a new level of excitement and then a new level of hope to, you know, do better in that MUN. So definitely day one for me as well.
So that's it for the rapid fire questions. Thank you so much. Now let's move forward for the suggestions that you can give to Jeji to make the 9th iteration of GEMS MUN successful.
I believe that Joyajit is competent enough to be the Secretary General, and I think the school administration, in their rightful capacity, have decided on Joyajit as the Secretary General for a very specific set of things. Right? I think he has it inside of him to do this MUN as the Secretary General. There's not much I'd like to say to him, but there's one thing. You need to be as humble as you can. You need to take your team together. Right? Even if you're the Secretary General and it's the rule of every year that the Secretary General does a whole load of work themselves, try taking the team together. Try making everyone in the organizing committee work. Try making everyone come to a similar point or a fairer point rather than having 2-3 points discussed in the committee and reach a certain conclusion. Never leave a debate undebated. Never leave a fight unmanaged or unresolution. Overall, take everyone together. Right? If you don't do that, your organizing committee will start breaking down, and that is not something you want.
Yeah, I agree with what Abhas said. It's also the fact that it's not a particular person's MUN. You're not going to be known, you know, like this is Joyjit's MUN or this was Abhas MUN or this was Dilasha's MUN. You'll be known all together as GEMS MUN. So take the team together because you're the one leading it. You got to know what your team desires from you as well as you know, hear what your team's opinion are. Take everyone together because at the end of the day, it's GEMS MUN and not your personal MUN or not a particular person's MUN. So that's my suggestion.
So how does it feel to be the close of GEMS MUN?
Dilasha, why don't you talk about how you find it?
I think it's a pretty popular thing. Everybody uses it to say that I cried at the end of GEMS MUN because you
Okay, see, I had answered both Dilasha and me for this particular question. It's this. You worked everything, every bone inside of you for the past 2 months, 3 months. You wake up till 5 a.m. in the morning, get ready for school at 6 and come to school at 6. You don't sleep, you work again, starting at 7. Right? When that continues for a solid 2 months, you then feel like from tomorrow, that's not going to happen anymore. You're going to have to sit in class, you're going to have to not see the people that you've been so close to for the past 2 months. The feeling that you get is so unreal that you feel like GEMS MUN is still not over. And I think with Dilasha and me, our iterations have still not been over. We've still been dreaming about our iterations. For a fact, I can even guess this much, Dilasha and me. We've been thinking about how we messed up on certain parts of our MUN, and if we got a time machine, how we could switch back and change the things that were done. Right? It's a very unrealistic feeling. feeling when you put down the gavel, look at the delegates, take a bow, and then leave the stage forever. Because you will never be returning to that stage in that capacity. You sure will as an executive board member in the future or an advisor, but as the Secretary General, that will be your last speech addressing each and every delegate. For Dilasha, she broke down crying, as far as I remember. For me, it was very hard to not cry. And I certainly did not cry, but handling my organizing committee at that point was what was more important for me, right? I still remember the entirety of the executive board and the delegates standing up after my closing speech. That feeling that you get after you close GEMS MUN, that gives you a certain ego boost that you've done one of the greatest MUNs in history. You've made history itself in GEMS, right? And I think Joyjeet will get that feeling on the 29th of September this year. And me and Dilasha will be looking at him from the sidelines and we'll just remember one thing. Please keep your speech humble as much as you can.
And I think it's also the fact that I realized in me and Abhas that I think my legacy logic can understand me coming up in hoodie with eye bags every single morning, working with exhaustion. The same thing I saw with Abhas, except we did not have a hoodie. We just came with eye bags and started working immediately as well. And you have a sudden realization that that's not going to be happening anymore. I feel like even after GEMS MUN ended, me and my OC with Abhas, we kind of stayed up till late at night because we were so used to that timing as well. So, GEMS MUN, especially at the end, it kind of gets to you. It's always going to be a part of you at some point or the other. So, I think that's the case with both of us as well.
Sometimes we are defined by what GEMS MUN is.
Yeah.
We're known as GEMS MUN for sections, not Abhas and Dilasha
That's
particularly.
right.
And I believe
GEMS MUN 2023.
And I believe Joyjeet will also be known as GEMS MUN 2024 section. And one more thing, Joyjeet will make friends right throughout this. You'll make lifelong connections throughout this. Just remember, don't lose it at the very end. Don't lose your friends over personal biasness or anything in the conference. Because there are people in the organizing committee who will not put professional like professional and personal like professional. I think you will keep your professional life professional and personal life very personal. So yeah, that'll be all from my side.
That'll be all from my side too. So.
Thank you so much. Well, that's a wrap for the very first GEMS MUN podcast. Let us know who you want to see featured in the next episode.
Until then, register for GEMS MUN 2024.
Please register.
Yes, register for GEMS MUN, and with Parley, we progress.